Welcome to the DCTV Daily News program out of Dove Creek, Colorado. I'm Kendra Cook, your host for this program, which is brought to you by the Dolores County Broadcasting Network with support from the Southwest Colorado TV Translator Association. That's the Special District Association responsible for bringing the area free-to-access TV stations over the air by antenna. This is a community TV station, so if there's a news story or event information that you would like to share, call us at 970-677-4119. And if you're a business or organization or an individual, we welcome you to find out about sponsorship opportunities for banners or video segments run on the channel. This is the Thursday program for January 28th, 2021, DCTV Daily News. Solar power. Of course, the next big national administration push again is away from oil and gas, as was seen this past week with an executive order to put a moratorium on all gas and oil new leases. There are now regrouping efforts on solar and wind for energy. This is a photo by Carl Payne. It is of the Rattlesnake Solar Farm sitting on 175 acres east of Platteville. It's the third and largest solar installation built by United Power and its partner Silicon Ranch. You may not have heard yet, but there are potential plans in the works to establish an 800-acre solar ranch. Think about that. Here in Dolores County to the east of Dove Creek. The company doing this is called Juwi, Juwi Solar, and it's a large company which constructs the facility and will turn it over for a 30-year lifespan to a major energy company. There are several agricultural landowners who are poised to get a big payout if this project goes through. It's starting through the Planning Commission and will be dealt with by the Dolores County Commissioners, with one commissioner having to recuse himself from all actions and discussions. That's Commissioner Steve Garcher, as he is brother to one of the landowners who will directly profit from this action. At a commissioners meeting last week, there was an extensive discussion between the board on who and why it was best for Mr. Garcher not to be chairman or vice chair this year. And ultimately, that is how Floyd Cook took his turn now as chairman for this year in place of next year, and Julie Keibel sits as vice chair for 2021. But I'll bring you back to this article in the Journal on solar farms in Colorado to give some background on what is happening statewide on this issue. They write, standing in the shade of a massive utility-scale array of solar panels on farmland east of Interstate 25, you don't have to look far for real-time examples of renewable sun power supplementing fossil fuels in the arc of Colorado's historical energy supply. Electricity generated by the Rattlesnake Solar Array uploads to United Power's local grid and then downloads immediately to pump fracked Colorado petroleum out of the ground within walking distance of the solar plant. 2.5 hours to the south, utility-scale solar arrays under construction near Xcel Energy's coal-fired Comanche power plant will fuel the expansion of Pueblo's historic steel rail mill. Statewide, solar powers gradually then suddenly rise as a key part of overall electricity generation, will add gigawatts of sunshine to the grid in the next 3 years, and even more by the 2030 target of reducing Colorado utility greenhouse emissions by 80%. Plummeting prices for solar panels in the past decade mean the cost of generating by the sun is now only 11% of what it was just 10 years ago, and with various tax credits significantly cheaper than building fossil fuel plants. Tri-State Generation, for example, Colorado's second largest utility after Xcel, has identified 1,850 megawatts of renewable power to add between 2024 and 2030, replacing high-polluting coal-fired units. More than half of that will be from large solar arrays. Tri-State has already contracted for the energy from 715 more megawatts of solar to go online by 2024. Colorado Springs Utilities announced last June that it would retire one of its coal-fired plants by 2023 and the other by 2029 to be replaced by solar and wind with battery storage to even out supply. Before 2020, I would have picked a global pandemic would have happened before Colorado Springs would go with a 100% renewable plan, said Mike Kruger, president of the Colorado Solar and Storage Association. One of the most conservative places in the state has totally embraced renewable energy, he said, not out of the goodness of their heart, but because the price is so damn good. Xcel is also closing Colorado coal plants early and replacing their power with solar and wind. Xcel's peak transmission demand on a hot summer day is about 7 gigawatts or 7,000 megawatts, and the 8-state utility already has just over 4 gigawatts of wind installed here in Colorado. The Power Supply and Emissions Reduction Plan Xcel filed with the Public Utilities Commission in late 2018 planned about 800 new megawatts of solar and 1,300 of wind, much of which is now turned on or being completed. What turns solar from a technology measured in rooftops to a power generator measured in square miles of panels? Quote, "The simple answer is price," said Jonathan Adelman, Xcel's Vice President of Planning and Strategy. With government-provided tax credits subsidizing development and manufacturing growth reducing the price of solar panels 80%, that's 80%. Installing solar utility generation is now cheaper than wind or natural gas-fired plants and far cheaper than new coal generation. Now, if we could get those battery storage units also down in price, that would be great. When Xcel completed its Colorado Energy Plan in 2018 and the bids for new solar and wind projects came in under the costs of operating even already built coal plants, quote, "It was a real wake-up call to people across the country," said Will Tour, Executive Director of Governor Jared Polis's Colorado Energy Office. The price drop allows power generators that have been pushed by co-op members on emissions and price, like Tri-State, to commission more solar and still fulfill their mission of providing cheap, reliable, and emissions-cutting generating methods. For-profit, shareholder-owned utilities like Xcel, meanwhile, can use solar and increasingly efficient wind turbines to meet climate change mandates without charging consumers more for unproven technology, and in fact can start lowering prices. That would be a great thing. Even with limited solar growth so far, Colorado utilities say that they are on track to reduce climate-changing emissions 80% by 2030 and 90% by 2050. Xcel executives said in interviews that they have achieved about 40% reductions already. The Greenhouse Gas Reduction Roadmap, which was a title released by Polis's office, will push utilities and regulators to go past the 80% target, given the economic changes favoring renewables over coal. Power generation may be the furthest along of these three primary emissions sectors, poised for steep cuts in the state's climate change battle. Cuts to the other two, oil and gas production emissions, and to transportation and industrial emissions, will be the targets of complex legislation and state agency rulemaking in the next months and years. Further cuts in power generation are still possible. Polis added that when releasing the final greenhouse gas roadmap in early January, our administration sees 80% as a floor, not a ceiling, and will engage at the PUC to get the deepest reductions possible, Polis said. The new round of solar arrays under planning or construction will for the first time include significant power storage. Power on demand has always been the advantage of fossil fuel energy sources. Hordes arrive home from work on a July afternoon and flip on the air conditioning and utilities and can power up on extra turbines almost immediately. But wind can carry on through the night, but solar dims when demand usually peaks. Tying new generation sources to existing transmission lines in Colorado remains an obstacle for optimal development of solar and wind, state experts say. We could build all the solar and battery we need in 36 months, but if it takes 10 years to build a transmission line, then the opportunities for emissions cuts and cost savings are lost, the Solar Trade Group's Kruger said. Colorado is not part of a regional transmission authority that can ease regulation and work across local governments, and major investors get scared away. Some make-do solutions are in the works. Large coal-fired turbines in Craig in northwestern Colorado will be turned off in coming years. That area does not have optimal conditions for solar generation, Kruger said, but it does have transmission, and solar arrays are likely to go in there. Lack of transmission has blocked utility-scale solar under the best sunshine in the state, the San Luis Valley, Kruger noted. You can pretty much draw a line above the lower 200 miles of Colorado from Kansas to Utah. All the best spots, but none can be built there because of transmission. There is more on this story as reported in the Colorado Sun, and you might want to check them out online. They offer a wide range of topic coverage on Colorado news. Again, we'll have more on the local solar ranch project forthcoming, and we will alert you, the public, of any hearings during this process so that you can voice your opinion as well. And now let's take a look at the local weather. After that last storm dumped quite a bit of snow, we have some sunshine again. And do we have more in our immediate future? Well, we do have a day of sun and then some possible snow and rain again. Today, partly sunny with a high near 36 on Thursday with south winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Tonight, increasing clouds with a low around 26 with south winds continuing around 5 to 15 miles an hour. And right now, it looks like Friday has an 80% chance for rain, possibly mixed with snow showers, and that may happen mainly tomorrow after 5 p.m. with a high on the day near 40 degrees. Breezy again with a south wind at 15 to 20 miles an hour, and then we pick up some gusts as high as 30 miles an hour. With new snow accumulation of less than a half an inch possible for Friday. And then into Friday night, there's more snow showers possible and possibly mixed with rain, becoming all snow after 8 p.m. with a low around 21 degrees. So look out Friday night. Southwest winds 5 to 10 miles an hour with additional new snow accumulation of 1 to 2 inches possible. And all that really depends on how much is snow and how much is rain. For Saturday, we're looking at mostly sunny with a high near 35 degrees with southwest winds at 5 to 10 miles an hour, becoming northwest in the afternoon. Saturday night, mostly clear and a low around 15 degrees. And into Sunday, sunny with a high near 36. Sunday night, partly cloudy and a low around 18. And if you do go into the back country this weekend, be sure to check for avalanche conditions that may be dangerous before you go out. For Monday, starting off February 1st, it's a partly sunny day with a high near 40 degrees with Monday night mostly cloudy and a low around 24. And now for Tuesday, we're looking at partly sunny during the day with a high of 43. But into Tuesday night, a chance for snow showers comes back in, mostly cloudy and a low around 24. And now back to our news. On Monday's news, I covered the phrases you are hearing more and more. Firstly, the Great Reset. To do your news homework, check out Klaus Schwab's book. It's called The Fourth Industrial Revolution. And all or most of what is going on in the world with regard to agenda becomes clearer. It's not red or blue, no party affiliation. I can't stress enough how much what is happening in our country and world is led by a few on the top who need you not to know better or not to bother them. So keep busy arguing and fighting with each other, or stand up for yourselves and question why the things are happening around you so you can become more proactive in you and your children's future. So back to part 2. Highlight for this week is the phrase Build Back Better. Here's a montage of clips of world leaders and a range of individuals who have cited the catchphrase Build Back Better in recent months.
It's a very pertinent question to ask, how do we build back better?
To build back better or whatever.
We have a chance to reset the clock and build back better than before.
To build back better than before.
Remember the terrible damage of COVID as we try to build back from this global pandemic.
Joe Biden calls it Build Back Better.
Build back better.
Building back better.
To do things differently. To build back better.
We're going to build it back better.
And build it back better.
It's my plan to build back better.
Start taking all the problems that have been created in education and mental health and start to build back in a positive way.
I have launched a booklet called Build Back Better, Britain After Coronavirus.
It's about building this country back better.
Growing conspiracy following it. It is called the Great Reset.
An unprecedented opportunity to rethink and reset the ways in which we live.
The great opportunity for reset.
The theory even calls Mr. Biden's campaign slogan, Build Back Better, a front for the conspiracy.
Build back better.
Building back better our economy.
Build back better.
All elements of the Great Reset are fundamental to building the future we need.
This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset.
It's a big effort to, some would say, to build back better. We would say to really have a great reset.
Conspiracy, conspiracy.
Conspiracy.
And back to our author, Graham Dockery. In his article on the Reset and Build Back Better, he continues with the topic of a new push for environmentalism. A side note that many see the belief in environmental issues close to that of a mechanism of a religion. He continues that before COVID hit, climate change, a real but heavily politicized problem, was the pet issue of governments worldwide as leaders fell over each other to announce closer dates for the phase-out of fossil fuels. The proponents of the Great Reset are no different and foresee a global carbon tax system in place by 2030, with citizens eating meat as, quote, an occasional treat, not a staple, for the good of the environment. Think about that, cattle ranchers. World leaders will likely kick off 2021 by renewing their commitments to a carbon-free future, whatever the cost, end quote. Next week, I'll get to what the globalists would allow the populace to eat, such as promoting crickets, bugs, and larvae for your basic diet. And that's not only for the third world countries, right here in America. Joe Biden, for one, has promised to sign the U.S. back up to the Paris Climate Agreement immediately upon taking office, and I believe an executive order did just that. While the average person may pay a little more for the privilege of driving a car or eating a steak in the coming months and years, the real change, according to the WEF, will be felt by 2030 when climate change displaces 1 billion people, creating an unprecedented wave of refugees. This is a long-term plan, folks. Under the terms of the Great Reset, quote, we'll have to do a better job at welcoming and integrating refugees. For the West, a wave of climate refugees means more competition for jobs and a growing underclass in the countries that take them in. However, they'll also get the opportunity to, quote, own nothing and be happy, just like the rest of us, as I reported on Monday. And the WEF can count on legions of grassroots activists, that's in quotes, to push these policies on the masses. Its youth wing, the, quote, global shapers community, was involved in last year's climate marches, and the community's leaders have been trained by the, quote, Climate Reality Project, an activist organization run by WEF trustee Al Gore. Expect these activists and their activities to demand climate action when the WEF meets in Davos, Switzerland through the end of this week. They're all doing it by Zoom this week, and we'll have another one hopefully in person after their pandemic adjusts for the summertime. Another point of concern is that the real and unreal are blurred and discussion is censored. With WEF members literally funding their own activist movements, it's going to be tough to discern top-down from grassroots change. In the case of the WEF's push for a new environmentalism, Greta Thunberg and British Petroleum are on the same team. When it comes to reimagining capitalism, Pope Francis and MasterCard are working together to give corporations a greater say in cultural and political issues. Regarding health policy, the WEF, and indeed much of the world's media, seems okay with letting Bill Gates decide the future of medicine and disease prevention. Discuss any of the contradictions and problems inherent in these post-COVID predictions, however, and you're labeled a conspiracy theorist, and that's a specific term that was created after the Kennedy assassination back in the 1960s by the CIA. With the world's social media giants all cracking down on, quote, conspiracy content, it remains to be seen where the line between dangerous misinformation and legitimate critique will be drawn in 2021. And I think we're seeing it already with some amazing censorship and FBI raids on people who posted memes before the 2016 election and face possibly 10 years in jail. We'll look at that again next week, too. However, it is no stretch to say that in 2021, Silicon Valley will have more say over what's not to discuss. The recent censorship of accounts off of Twitter and Facebook and previously YouTube channels continues to crack down on a specific type of social media voice. In 2020 alone, Twitter censored the President of the United States and banned a national newspaper from reporting damaging information on his opponent. When it comes to content branded as, quote, conspiracy theory, discussion will in all likelihood be more, not less, restricted from here on. Amid the global upheaval brought on by the coronavirus pandemic, in quotes, it's easy to imagine world leaders and corporations taking advantage of the chaos to impose more controls over the populace. Prince Charles himself even described our turbulent times as a, quote, golden opportunity to make good on big visions of change. However, the movers and shakers who travel every year to the World Economic Forum's summit in Davos, Switzerland, have boasted about their, quote, great plans before, from 2009's shaping the post-crisis world to 2012's The Great Transformation. The actual implementation of the Great Reset will depend on the imagination and ambition of governments and their corporate partners and how well this squares against economic necessity and public resistance. In summary, this past year's pandemic has enabled a worldwide excuse, as it were, to enforce an economic collapse where it is needed to recreate the mechanisms of society for a, quote, great reset, and according to those at Davos, mostly a method to build back better in the ways that they see fit. And if you live in or around Dove Creek or anywhere along the highway where a change in speed is required, you no doubt have been jolted by the infamous sound of a Jake brake, that kapuff sound that occurs when making an engine brake to reduce speed in place of actually braking. It's that sound coming off the engine when a sudden downshift is made. Well, apparently, there's a Colorado state law requiring engine brake mufflers for commercial vehicles, such as the big tractor trailers. But there's a catch. In order to catch an offender of such law, there needs to be an ordinance in place. After this newscast, I will be providing this information to both our county council and the town board to see about moving this forward in Dove Creek, Dolores County. The Durango Herald's report reads the following, quote, La Plata County formally adopted a state law that requires the use of engine brake mufflers for commercial vehicles to prevent what's known as Jake brakes, a loud method of braking on trucks. Although the engine brake mufflers are required by state law, La Plata County must adopt its own ordinance for the requirement, said Jim Davis, the county's public works director. Also, by adopting a local ordinance, Davis said law enforcement will be better able to enforce the law as well as place signs around the region where appropriate. Davis said that some residents in the past year or so have asked for signs to be placed on U.S. Highway 550 near the La Plata County-San Juan County border, just north of Durango, in Grandview and on Florida Road. All three commissioners unanimously adopted the ordinance on Tuesday. Commissioner Marsha Porter Norton said that the ordinance is aimed at improving the quality of life for residents who live near busy roads. Quote, the trucking industry is important for commerce, she said. It's not against the trucking industry at all. I will follow up, as there currently is no signage at the west end of Dove Creek, and look into whether there is signage in the area of Rico as well. And to catch this program online, visit our Facebook page, which is DCTV Daily News, or also online on YouTube. Both you can follow and or subscribe to easily and join in on the conversation. This is your local community TV station. So if you have something to say or share, contact us. The email is dcbnnews@gmail.com, or call us and leave a message at the station 970-677-4119. Thanks for tuning in to DCTV Daily News. If you like the program, please do like and follow us on Facebook and share it with your friends and family. This has been a production of DCTV for the DCTV Daily News program out of Dove Creek, Colorado, USA. I'm Kendra Cook. Be well and keep thinking for yourself.